watch, we needed to have some quartz movement, some special quartz movement. And there's nothing against quartz. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we wanted to ensure that the watches would work perfectly well, and we had, big chunk, big segment for ourselves with quartz watches.
I get the impression that for most men, and certainly the watch collector, quartz is a no-no. It would be like driving a Prius or Sinclair C5 instead of a Porsche. A watch has to have an engine.
Manual movements basically are mechanical, but you literally wind the winder in order to get the power up in the mainspring.
It's a mechanical piece of jewellery for a man.
I've tried to analyse the kind of men that like watches and cars, and I have to say that although I am one of them, I'm not a huge fan of the men that do. I'm not sure that they're the kind of best people on the planet.
Automatic watches are, in effect, again, just mechanical movements. They have a disc, which is called a rotor in the back, and upon the movement of your wrist, this disc floats around and winds this wheel. Mechanical movements, be them automatic or manual, they have a second hand that sort of glides more.
I'm learning that a watch is as special as a car, an automated coat of arms. Yet head-to-head, when push comes to shove, it seems that the watch is that little bit more special.
This is the price of a BMW convertible. Mine. I'd rather have that than a BMW.
I'd rather drive a diesel people carrier for the rest of my life and continue to collect watches.
But a watch, you take up and you draw. I mean, I came home with 3 of that. 3 watches, travel, but moved,
For me, it's just so user-friendly. You can travel with it, you can go anywhere in the world with them, you can send them around.
But then, for everyone that loves a watch, there are the guys that think, well, I can tell the time on my mobile phone or on the kitchen cooker, whatever. Why do I need a watch,
You don't like them, do we, then? You don't like those people?
Not at all, no. I've got no time for them.
They have no place in today's society.
Coming up next, I discover the euphoric qualities of watch collecting, delve into the murky world of fake watches, and take Tom on a unique journey to meet the ultimate living watchmaker. With my own budget in mind, it's time to start looking for this new watch. I've been having a look at your website over the weekend and really quite like the look of the gold Daytona with the diamond face. I feel like the boss man.
Do you? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You like that, don't you?
I do, but I'm also thinking, I've always been on Rolex.
I've got to tell you.
Yeah.
Stick with Patek and Rolex.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. I mean, you can literally take your Rolex into any country, anywhere in the world. You can go to a jeweler, you can say, you know what, you can buy it from me, and you're going to get to within, as long as he's not a rogue, to within 10 to 15% of every dealer all over the world.
The next question to consider is whether I'm better off buying new or second-hand.
What I will advise is which watch is likely to go down more or go up more, and as a general principle, yes, you've got far more of a chance in old watches if you're buying for investment as new watches.
There's merit to still getting maybe a new car with extended warranties and anything like that. With a watch, as long as it's authentic, actually, what can go wrong with it? The worst that can happen is it's going to cost a couple £100 to have it cleaned and fixed.
Your watch is worth what you can go out and sell it for, isn't it? And half the time, retailers who have agencies of different brands are buying their wholesale stock at actually slightly more than it's worth to cash out. So they're constantly kind of chasing their tails. It's a very difficult business to be in,
What I seem to be finding out is that buying some brand new watches can lead to a pretty quick depreciation of up to 70%. If your infatuation justifies it, fine. But for me, I think I'm better off investment-wise sticking to the pre-owned market.
Ultimately, I would say someone should collect watches because they love them, they dig them, and they're into them. And if there's an upside, fantastic.
10 years ago, you wouldn't get 1,500 quid for this watch. Right now, it's 20,000 quid.
Like the Rolex Orange Hound Explorer, this 1960s pre-moon landing Omega Speedmaster is now worth £4,000. 10 years ago, you'd have been lucky to get £400 for it. Some watches can do remarkably well, yes. But by and large, the message I'm getting is that if you are sensible, you should be looking at worst at coming out even on your watch, or at best watching it grow by about 50% annually.
yes, there is an investment side to the business, of course there is. And I mean no offence to you about this, Henry. But if there is some kind of sleeper watch that I buy for 20 grand, that I know that in 10 years is going to be worth £500,000, I'm probably going to plank it myself.
Now, that all seems fairly straightforward. But of course it isn't. Watches are a drug, a potent addiction that's hard to master.
People who get to, say, the level of being able to purchase into ultra-luxury, let's take Patek as the example, the chances are they probably won't buy one. They do get bitten by the bug, and then it becomes a kind of habitual process.
It's like favourite anything, unfortunately, otherwise I wouldn't be here today.
I've always liked watches. I mean, it's a bit of a disease.
John has returned with a deal in mind. He wants the Peruvian for sure, but he's also brought in his entire watch collection to see if he can snag the golden surprise as well, as part of an equitable horse trade.
So this is what he's going for?
Yeah.
Man, he's really had a sort of bling meltdown, hasn't it?
John's watch downsizing may in part be due to a recent spell in rehab.
He said in rehab. I went, they said, how do you feel? And I went, whoa! I went, there's a
I think he spent some time in Arizona.
And they didn't quite get it there.
The woman said to me, and I left, she said, John, when you leave, she said, it's great to have whoa, but calm it down, not too much of it.
A rehab alumni himself, Henry understands all too well the lunacy of watchaholism.
Maybe he got confronted and part of his amends was to dump the bling and get real. Get real, get honest, and dump the bling.
I've got to go to therapy because I've got to...
You don't go nearly enough, you know.
No, and I'm going to take these to show my analyst.
Back at the swap shop, John and Tom are really struggling to find common ground.
No, because I can't do it.
Why?
I don't have my head set in it, and I don't want to go away and say I shouldn't have done that, because it's not that, it's not the be-all end-all. I want to be happy by it, but there's so many ponderables about it. I don't like to be it, because I quite like the gold.
The following day, I have to confess to Tom that the modern Rolex Daytona I've been test driving isn't really working for me. He explains why that is.
I think watches are about people, and I think that you are an interesting character in that you are quite old school.
I guess, yeah.
I think, but with a very funky edge to you.
Based on this assessment of me, Tom selects a very rare vintage gold Rolex Submariner, which he believes is the most me. A little over budget, but I like it. Let's put it and Tom's theory to the test. And there's only one test that counts. Girls.
These aren't necessarily the watches that you like the best. They're the watches you think that look the coolest on him.
Right. I like that one.
I would say this one.
This one and this one.
I think that one.
I think definitely that one.
Yes, I do. With this outer black face, or the outer black rim and the black face, it's a little edgy.
So far, okay, we are 6 of 6 on the gold Submariner.
Yeah, everybody said the gold sub. I'm impressed. It seems as if the guru does actually know what he's talking about, that there is some sort of symbiosis between the watch and its owner. A cool watch on you may not be such a cool watch on me. Hey, I got a little bit of bad news.
What's that?
Le Mans.
Yeah?
We're going by train.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me, man. No way.
Yeah. Yes way. Having been guided so well by Tom so far, it's my turn to take him on a journey to meet his very own watch guru. We are bombing towards Richard Mille. Richard Mille launched his revolutionary watches in 1999. He applied his background in Formula One racing to the architecture, raw materials and design concepts of his unique watches. And that's why we're heading to the Le Mans Classic in France, a racing event devoted to the finest vintage sports cars of all time. And unsurprisingly, sponsored by Richard Mille himself.
He is the only person for me that kind of excites me as far as modern watchmaking. I'm really I think it's quite cool again.
So this one is, what, about 250?
No, 320.
And that's about 450, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this one?
They just got up. I believe they're now around 1065, 1070.
So basically that's a meal.
Yeah, I guess you could say that's a proper Ricky Mille.
As we hurtle through the French countryside, I try to understand why it is that Rolex is such a powerful brand, and why for most of us, it is the go-to watch.
You asked before how I got into watches, and that was from my dad taking me to see Live and Let Die when I was 7 or something. And in that, there's this scene with Roger Moore where he frees himself and Jane Seymour from the